Single mechanic helps a police officer on the road, but freezes upon recognizing who she is. Marcus Harrison was driving his truck down the dirt road when he spotted the patrol car pulled over on the shoulder with its hood up. White smoke was coming from the engine, and a woman in a green uniform was pacing nervously around the vehicle, talking on the radio. It was when she turned around that Marcus's world stopped. That face, those brown eyes, the shape of her nose, the way she bit her lower lip when worried. 22 years had passed, but he would never forget those features. It was his sister Emily. Marcus felt his hands tremble on the steering wheel. Emily was only 8 years old when their mother took her away after their parents' separation. He, 10 years old at the time, begged to go with them, but the judge decided each child would stay with one parent. Since then, he had tried to find her in every possible way. He took a deep breath and parked the truck a few meters ahead of the patrol car. Emily didn't even look in his direction when he got out, too focused on her attempts to reach someone on the radio. "Dispatch, this is Patrol 705. I need a tow truck on Interstate 40, mile marker 247. Engine overheated and I can't proceed," she spoke with authority, but Marcus detected the frustration in her voice. He approached slowly, struggling to keep his composure. "Good afternoon, officer. I saw you're having trouble. I'm a mechanic. Can I take a look?" Emily turned, quickly sizing him up. Marcus noticed she showed no sign of recognition. Of course not, he thought. He looked very different from the 10-year-old boy he was when they were separated. "Do you have any identification?" she asked, automatically cautious. Marcus showed his professional license. Emily examined the document, focusing on the name. "Marcus Harrison," she murmured, and for a moment he hoped she remembered. "I appreciate the offer, but I've already called a tow truck. It could take hours for them to get here. At least let me take a look. If it's something simple, you'll be back on the road in no time." She hesitated, looking at her watch. Marcus realized she was late for some important commitment. "All right, but I'll be right here watching." Marcus walked to the engine, pretending to examine the problem, but actually trying to process the situation. His sister was there, just a few meters away from him, as a police officer. She had grown up, graduated, built a career, and he had no idea. "Problem with the radiator hose," he said after a few minutes. "I have a spare hose in the truck. I can make the repair." "How much will it cost?" "Nothing. Consider it a favor." Emily looked at him suspiciously. "Why would you do it for free? You don't know me." Marcus felt a tightness in his chest. If she only knew. "My mother always said to help those in need, especially women alone on the road." It was a half-truth. His mother really did say that, but the real reason was that this was his sister, his family, the person he had searched for most in his life. "Your mother sounds like a wise person," Emily commented, relaxing her posture a little. "She was. She passed away 5 years ago." "I'm sorry." Marcus went to get the tools from the truck, using the moment to breathe and try to control his emotions. When he returned, Emily was leaning against the patrol car, looking at the rural landscape around them. "Nice area," she commented. "It feels familiar." Marcus almost dropped the wrench. Familiar? Could she have some memory of this place? This was exactly the region where they grew up together, where they played in their paternal grandfather's yard during vacations. "Are you from around here?" he asked, trying to sound casual as he worked on the engine. "No, I'm from San Diego, but—" She stopped as if trying to organize confused thoughts. "Sometimes I have the feeling I've been here before. Weird thing, huh?" Marcus felt the urge to tell her everything right then. From hugging her and saying yes, she had indeed been here, that they played together on these same roads, that they built dollhouses under that big tree that was still there about 100 yards away. "Maybe on some trip when I was a child," he suggested. "Maybe. My childhood memory is very fragmented. I moved cities a lot when I was little." Emily approached to observe his work. Marcus noticed she had an observant way about her, attentive to details, traits she had already shown as a child. "You're good at what you do," she complimented. "Where did you learn?" "From my father. He had a small auto shop here in the area." "Had? He passed away too." 3 years ago. This time the silence was longer. Marcus didn't mention that his father always talked about her, that until his last day, he hoped she would one day show up looking for her family. "And you? Did you always want to be a police officer?" he asked, tightening the new hose. "Since I was little, I always had this desire to protect people, to do justice." She smiled for the first time, and Marcus was moved to recognize the same smile from when she was a child. "My mom says that since I was 6, I was already talking about being a police officer." Marcus felt a pang in his chest, hearing her say, "my mom," referring to the mother who raised her, not the biological one. "And your family? Do they support your profession?" "My mom resisted a bit at first, thought it was dangerous, but later she understood it was my dream. I don't have a father, so the decision was hers alone." "I don't have a father." The words echoed in Marcus's mind. So she didn't know her father was alive when she left. Or did her mother say he had died? "And you never married?" "Sorry for the personal question, but I don't see a ring." Emily laughed, but it was a joyless laugh. "The profession doesn't make relationships easy. Men are either afraid of the woman police officer, or they want to protect me too much, as if I were fragile. I haven't found someone yet who understands I can be strong at work and feminine in my personal life." Marcus finished the repair and closed the hood. Emily started the engine and the car ran perfectly. "All set, you can continue your trip," he said, putting away the tools. "Really, you won't accept anything? At least let me pay for the hose." "No need, I have several in stock." Emily stood still for a few moments, as if she wanted to say something but didn't know how. You have something familiar too," she finally said. "I can't explain it, but I feel like I've seen you before." Marcus's heart raced. Could she be starting to remember? "It must be because I have one of those common faces," he tried to deflect. "No, it's not that. It's more the way you move, how you talk. You remind me of someone, but I can't figure out who." At that moment, Marcus made an impulsive decision. "Emily, can I ask you a strange question?" She was startled to hear her own name. "How do you know my name? I didn't introduce myself." Marcus realized his mistake. He pointed to the name on her uniform. "It's embroidered on your uniform." Emily looked at her own uniform and relaxed. "Oh, right. Sorry. Force of habit. What was the question?" Do you remember having any siblings?" The question took Emily by surprise. She stood motionless for a few seconds, as if something had stirred in her memory. "Why are you asking that?" "Sorry, I shouldn't have asked. It's just that you said your childhood memory is fragmented and, I don't know, sometimes talking to people we discover things about ourselves." Emily leaned against the car, her expression becoming thoughtful. "I sometimes have confusing dreams with a boy. We play together, we build things. He protected me when I was scared, but I always wake up without remembering his face clearly." Marcus felt his eyes well up, but he disguised it by wiping his hands on the rag. "And in the dream, are you siblings?" "I think so. He calls me Little Sis, but my mom always said I'm an only child. That these dreams are just imagination, a mix of things I saw on television as a child." Marcus had the urge to shout that the dreams were real, that he did call her Little Sis, that he promised to protect her always, but he controlled himself. "Mothers sometimes protect their children from painful memories," he said carefully. Emily stared at him intently. "You talk as if you know something." "I don't know anything specific about you, just I've seen cases of families who were separated when the children were little. Sometimes adults think it's better if they don't remember the past." The patrol car's radio crackled, interrupting the conversation. "Patrol 705, what's your location?" Emily answered the call, informing them the issue was already resolved and she would proceed to her destination. "I need to go," she said to Marcus, "but thank you, really. You have no idea how you've helped me." She extended her hand to shake his, but when their hands touched, both felt something strange, a familiarity, a connection they couldn't explain. "Emily," Marcus said, holding her hand longer than necessary. "If you want to talk more about these dreams, about childhood memories, I'm always around this area. My auto shop is about 15 kilometers from here." Why would you be interested in my dreams? Marcus needed all his willpower not to tell the truth. Because I think we all deserve to understand our past, and sometimes a stranger can see things that are very close to us. Emily got into the patrol car, but didn't start it immediately. She kept looking at Marcus through the glass as if trying to decipher a puzzle. "What's the name of your auto shop?" she asked through the window. "Harrison Auto Shop, at the entrance to the town of Pleasant Valley." "Pleasant Valley," she repeated, and Marcus saw a shadow pass over her face. "That name? I know that name. It's a small town. Maybe you've passed through here on some operation." "Maybe," she said, but she seemed distant, lost in thought. Emily started the car and waved through the window before driving off down the road. Marcus stood in the same spot for long minutes, watching the dust settle and trying to process what had happened. His sister was alive, well, strong and independent. But she didn't remember him, didn't remember the family, didn't know she had a brother who had been searching for her for over 20 years. Marcus got into his truck with a heavy heart. Part of him was happy to have finally found Emily. Another part was devastated because she didn't remember him, had no idea who he really was. He drove back to the auto shop in Pleasant Valley, the same town where they grew up together until their parents separated. The shop operated on the same property where the old family house used to be. Marcus had bought the property as soon as he managed to save enough money, hoping that one day Emily would come back looking for her roots. Arriving at the shop, Marcus sat in the chair behind the workbench and stared at the drawer where he kept his only mementos of his sister. A few old photos and a drawing she made when she was 7, showing the two of them playing in the backyard. William, his assistant of 10 years, noticed something was different. "What's that look, Marcus? You look like you've seen a ghost." "Worse than a ghost, William. I saw someone I thought I'd never find again." "A woman?" "My sister." William was surprised. In 10 years of working together, Marcus had never mentioned having a sister. "I didn't know you had a sister. I don't talk about her because it's complicated. We were separated when we were kids. She went to live with my mother in another city. And now she's back?" "Not exactly. She was passing by on the road having car trouble. I helped her, but she didn't recognize me, William. To her, I'm a stranger." William approached and sat on the stool next to Marcus. "Were you both very young when you were separated?" "She was 8. I was 10. But even so, we were very close. We played together all the time. We slept in the same room when she had nightmares. I taught her how to ride a bike, how to make a kite, how to climb trees. 22 years is a long time, Marcus. People change, they forget. I haven't forgotten her. But you were older. Memories stay clearer depending on the age we were when we formed them." Marcus sighed deeply. "She said she has confusing dreams about a boy she used to play with, but her mother always told her she's an only child." "That's cruel." William made a disapproving face. "Why would a mother do that?" "I don't know. Maybe to protect her, maybe out of resentment toward my father, maybe so she wouldn't suffer from missing us. Who knows?" "And now? Are you going to tell her who you are?" Marcus was thoughtful for a few moments. "I don't know if I should. She's built a life, she has a career, she seems to be doing well. What if I show up and mess everything up? What if she doesn't believe me? What if she doesn't want to know about the family she left behind? Or she might be happy to learn she has a brother who always loved her and never stopped looking for her. Or she might hate me for showing up out of nowhere after so many years." William shook his head. "Marcus, you've spent more than half your life looking for her. Now that you've found her, you can't let it go. At least give her the chance to decide. She said she might come here to talk about childhood memories. Then wait for her to come. Then you tell her everything." Marcus agreed, but inside he was full of doubts and fears. What if Emily never showed up? What if she found it all too strange and decided not to come back? What if when he told the truth, she didn't believe him? In the following days, Marcus spent even more time at the auto shop, always alert to any car that passed by, hoping to see the red patrol car. William teased him, saying he was acting like a teenager waiting for his crush to appear. "It's not a crush, William, she's my sister. I know, man, but you're just as anxious." A week passed with no sign of Emily. Marcus began to think she had forgotten about the meeting, that maybe that moment of connection had just been in his head. It was on a Thursday afternoon that he heard the familiar sound of a patrol car engine. He ran out of the shop and saw Emily getting out of the car, wearing the same green uniform, but with a different expression. More pensive, almost troubled. "Hi, Marcus." "Emily, I'm so glad you came. You said if I wanted to talk about childhood memories, you'd be here. Of course, come in, I'll make some coffee." Emily followed Marcus to the small room at the back of the auto shop. It was a simple space, with a table, some old chairs, and a shelf with technical manuals and a few photographs. "Nice place," she commented, looking around. "Do you live here?" "I live in a house out back. This shop, I bought it because it has a special meaning to me." "What kind of meaning?" Marcus poured the coffee and sat at the table with her. "This is where my family's house used to be. When my father died, I bought the land back and turned it into the shop." Emily looked around again, this time more carefully. "Your family lived here, in Pleasant Valley?" "My whole family was born and raised here. My grandfather, my father, me." He paused. "And my sister, too." "You have a sister?" Marcus looked her in the eyes. "I had. She moved away when she was a child." Emily was silent for a few moments, stirring her coffee without drinking it. "Marcus, since that day on the road, I can't stop thinking about this town, about the name Pleasant Valley, and when you told me your family lived here, what did you remember? I've come here twice this week. I didn't go into the auto shop, I just drove around town, and it's the strangest thing, because I feel like I know every corner, every street, every tree." Marcus felt his heart race. "And what else did you feel?" "That this is the city of my dreams. That boy I dream about. We used to play in places I recognize here. The playground in the central square, the main church, the municipal school." "Emily, can I show you something?" Marcus went to the bookshelf and took out an old photo, yellowed with time. It was him and Emily around 8 and 6 years old, playing in the backyard. Emily took the photo with trembling hands. "Where did you get this photo?" "It's from my family. This girl..." She pointed to herself in the photo. "This girl is me. I'm absolutely sure." But how is that possible? Dear listener, if you're enjoying the story, please take a moment to like and especially subscribe to the channel. It really helps us who are just starting out, now continuing. Marcus took a deep breath. There was no more running from the truth. "Emily, this girl is you, and this boy is me. We're siblings." Emily dropped the photo as if it were burning her hands. She stood up abruptly from the chair and took a few steps back. "That's impossible. You're lying." "I'm not lying, little sis." The word, little sis, hit Emily like a punch. She leaned against the wall, clearly shaken. You're the boy from my dreams." "I'm your older brother, Marcus. We were separated when you were 8. Mom took you to San Diego after she and Dad divorced." Emily slid down the wall until she was sitting on the floor, clearly in shock. "It can't be true. My mom always said I was an only child. Always." Marcus knelt beside her. "Emily, our biological mother's name is Linda. You were born on March 15th, 1985. When you were little, you had a doll named Jellybean that you took everywhere. You were afraid of the dark, so I would make up stories to help you fall asleep." Every word Marcus said echoed like a lost memory in Emily's mind. She began to cry. "The Jellybean doll. I remember the Jellybean doll, but my mom said I got it at school." "You got it from her on your 6th birthday. I helped pick it out." "Why didn't you look for me sooner? Why did you wait for me to find you by chance?" "Little sis, I did look. I looked for 22 years. I hired a private detective, put ads in newspapers, searched on social media. But you changed your last name and your mom moved cities several times." "She changed her last name? Why?" "Probably so I could never find you." Emily wiped her tears and looked at the photo again. "If you're really my brother, why didn't you tell me the day you fixed my car?" "Because I was scared. You didn't remember me, you had built a new life. I thought maybe it was better to leave things as they were." "But you changed your mind." I changed it when you said Pleasant Valley felt familiar. I realize part of you still remembers this life, this family. Emily was silent for long minutes, trying to process everything. Marcus respected her silence, giving her time to absorb the information. Our father, is he alive? Marcus felt a tightness in his chest. No. He passed away 3 years ago, from heart problems. Did he ask about me? Every day, until his last day. He kept your photos, your drawings, your toys. Everything in a box in his room. Emily began to cry again, this time more intensely. I could have known him, I could have said goodbye, I could have told him I loved him. Marcus sat beside her on the floor and hesitantly put his arm around her shoulders. To his surprise, she let herself be hugged. He knew you loved him. He never doubted that. He knew you were just a child when he left, that you had no choice. But I grew up. He could have looked for the family when I became an adult. Your adoptive mother probably made you believe there was no family to look for, or that we didn't want any contact with you. Adoptive? Linda isn't my biological mother? Marcus realized Emily's confusion. No, Linda is our biological mother. She raised you. But from what you're telling me, she seems to have completely changed the story's version. I see. Emily wiped her face. Marcus, I need time to process all this. It's a lot of information at once. Of course. I understand perfectly. But before I go, can you tell me what our childhood was like, the things we did together? Marcus smiled, happy she was interested in the memories. You wanted to do everything I did. When I climbed trees, you wanted to climb too. When I learned something at school, I'd run to teach you. And could I keep up? Always. You were very smart, smarter than me at many things. Dad always said you'd be more intelligent than him and me combined. Emily smiled for the first time since the revelation. Tell me more. We built forts in the backyard using old sheets and chairs. You insisted they were princess castles, and I had to be the knight who protected you from dragons. What else? You had a habit of collecting colorful pebbles. You said each color had a different magical power. I helped you look for the prettiest pebbles when we went out to play. I still have some colorful pebbles at home, Emily whispered. I never knew why I collected them. Marcus felt a wave of emotion. And do you remember our favorite game? No. We pretended we were detectives. You were my partner, and we'd go out to solve mysteries around the neighborhood. Cases like who ate Mrs. Johnson's cake or where Aunt Dorothy's cat hid the kittens. Emily laughed, a genuine laugh. That's why I became a police officer. That's why you became a police officer. You always wanted to discover the truth, always wanted to protect others. And you? Why did you become a mechanic? Marcus hesitated before answering. Dad always said that one day you'd come back, and that when you did, you'd be driving a car, like an independent, successful woman. He said I needed to know how to fix any problem your car might have, so I could help you. Emotion overwhelmed Emily again. He really believed I'd come back? He never doubted it. He'd say, my little girl will come back. She's too smart to forget her family. But I forgot. You didn't forget. You're here, aren't you? Your dreams, your fragmented memories, the familiarity you felt with this town, all of that are signs that a part of you never forgot. Emily got up from the floor and began walking around the auto shop, observing everything more carefully. You said our house used to be right here. Right here? Do you want me to show you where each room was? I do. Marcus led her outside the shop and began pointing to different areas of the property. The living room was over there where my workbench is now. The kitchen was where we store parts today. And our bedroom. We shared a room. You slept in my room when you had nightmares, which was almost every night, he smiled. So Dad ended up putting an extra bed in there. It became our official room. And where was it? Right there where my office is now. Emily walked to the indicated area and stood still, as if trying to visualize the memories. Can I go in and be alone there for a bit? Of course. Emily entered the small office and closed the door. Marcus stayed outside, respecting her moment. He heard her walking back and forth, moving things, clearly exploring the space. After almost 20 minutes, She left the office with red eyes, but with a more serene expression. "I remember," she said simply. "What?" "You singing me to sleep. You used to sing a song. How did it go again?" Marcus felt a shiver. It was a song he would improvise, different every night, but always with the same melody. "Sleep, little sis, for the day is fading away. Dream of castles, dream of princesses. Tomorrow we'll play again until the sun sets." Emily began to cry again, but this time they were tears of relief. That was exactly it. "I remember your voice singing that. You always asked for a song before bed, and you always made up a new one. Not always new. Sometimes I'd repeat, but you never complained." Emily moved closer to Marcus, and for the first time in 22 years, the siblings truly hugged. It was a long hug, full of longing, regret, relief, and love. "Little sis, I missed you so much," Marcus whispered. "Me too, bro, even without knowing I was missing you." They stayed embraced for several minutes until Emily pulled away. "Marcus, I need to go now, but can I come back tomorrow?" "You can come here whenever you want. This is your home too. Thank you, and thank you for finding me, for being patient, for waiting until I was ready to know the truth. Thank you for coming to look for the memories, and for being brave enough to accept they were real." Emily got into the patrol car, but before leaving she rolled down the window. "Marcus?" "Yeah, little sis." "Our mother, Linda, is she still alive?" Marcus nodded. "She is. Lives in New York now. Want me to give you her contact?" "Not yet. First I need to sort out my feelings. Decide if I want to talk to her or not." "I understand. In your own time. See you tomorrow?" "I'll be here." Emily waved and drove off. Marcus stood in front of the auto shop for a long time, still trying to believe that had really happened. He had found his sister, and she had accepted learning the truth about the past. William arrived a few minutes later and found Marcus still standing in the same spot. "So, how did the talk go?" "She knows who I am now." "And how did she react?" "At first she was in shock. Then she cried a lot. But in the end, she remembered me, William. She remembered our childhood." "That's great, man, and now?" "Now she needs time to process everything, but she's coming back tomorrow." "Must be hard for her too, finding out she's believed the wrong version of her own story her whole life." Marcus agreed. He was happy to have found Emily again, but also worried about the emotional impact all these revelations were having on her. The following night, Emily returned to the auto shop right after her work shift. This time she brought a notebook and a more determined expression. "Hi, bro." "Hi, little sis. How was your day?" "Hard. I spent the whole day thinking about our conversation yesterday, and I made some decisions." "What kind of decisions?" Emily sat at the table and opened the notebook. "First, I wrote down everything I could remember about our childhood after our talk. Want to see?" Marcus sat down beside her and began to read the notes. They were fragmented memories, but all correct. The name of the dog they had, Thunder. The color of their room, light blue. The name of their first-grade teacher, Miss Anderson. The mango tree in the backyard where they played. "It's all right. How did you remember so many details?" "It was like a dam burst in my head. One memory led to another and another and another." "And the second decision?" "I want to see all the places where we used to play. The school, the park, the church, the neighbors' houses. I want to completely rebuild my memory of that time. I can take you to all those places tomorrow if you want." "I do, and there's more." "Go on." "I want to see the things our father kept. The box you mentioned with my photos and toys." Marcus was emotional. "I have everything stored at home. I can go get it now." "Please." Marcus went to his house in the back and returned with a well-preserved shoebox. He placed it on the table and opened it slowly. The first thing Emily saw was a drawing she had made when she was 7, showing the whole family, Dad, Mom, Marcus, and her, all holding hands in front of the house. "I remember making this drawing," she whispered. "It was for Father's Day. Dad framed it, and it stayed on the living room wall until the day he died." Emily continued going through the box. There were several photos, a baby shoe, some small clothes, and at the bottom, a sealed envelope with "For my little girl" written in her father's handwriting. "What is this?" she asked, showing the envelope. "Dad wrote this for you a few weeks before he died. He asked me to give it to you when you came back." Emily opened the envelope with trembling hands and began to read the letter aloud. "My dear little girl Emily, if you are reading this letter, it is because my son Marcus managed to find you. I always knew he would, because his brotherly love for you is stronger than any obstacle. I want you to know that not a single day went by without me thinking of you, about your laughter, your hugs, your desire to discover the world. I know your mother did what she thought was best for you, and I hold no resentment. But I always hoped that one day you would come home, to meet the strong and good man your brother has become, and to know you were always loved here. If I am no longer here when you return, I want you to know I will die happy, because I know you have become a courageous and just woman, just as I always dreamed you would be. Take care of your brother as he took care of you when you were little. The love between you two is the most beautiful thing I have ever seen in my life. With all my love, your father who never forgot you." Emily finished reading the letter with tears streaming down her face. Marcus was also emotional, hearing his father's words for the first time. "He knew what kind of person I would become. He said you had kindness in your heart since you were little, that you would always be someone who fights for what is right. I'm so sorry he died without knowing me as an adult." "He did know you, little sis. By the way you treat people, by your profession, by the kind of woman you are. He knew you through me because I always told him the things I discovered about you." "What do you mean?" Marcus hesitated before answering. I always managed to find out some things about your life, where you studied, when you graduated from the police academy, when you passed your exams. Nothing invasive, just public information. You kept track of me from afar all these years. Not closely, but I always tried to know if you were okay, if you were managing to achieve your dreams." Emily fell silent, processing the information. "And did you ever try to look for me directly?" "Several times. But you kept moving from city to city constantly in the early years. When I managed to locate where you were, you had already moved again. Because of my mother's job. She always found jobs in different cities. Or to make it harder for me to find you," Marcus suggested. "That's possible." Emily went through the box again and found a small notebook. "What is this?" "Dad's notes. He wrote down everything he found out about you over the years." Emily opened the notebook and saw page after page of notes. Emily graduated second grade with honors. Emily won the school essay contest. Emily graduated from the police academy. Emily was promoted to sergeant. How did he know all this? I told him. And sometimes he would call the schools himself, pretending to be a grandfather just to know how you were doing. You never gave up on me. Never. Not for a second. Emily closed the planner and looked at Marcus. "Bro, can I ask you a tough question?" "Sure. You never got married, never had kids of your own?" "No. Because of me?" Marcus thought carefully before answering. "It wasn't quite like that. I dated a few times over the years, but I always felt like there was a part of me that was incomplete, like part of my family was missing, you know. And that got in the way of your relationships. A little. The girlfriends never understood why I was so obsessed with finding a sister who probably didn't even remember me. They thought I should move on. But you couldn't. I couldn't. And now I understand it was because I always knew, deep down, that you would come back, that our connection was too strong to be broken forever." Emily took Marcus's hand. "I'm sorry you wasted so many years of your life looking for me. I didn't waste anything, little sis. Finding you was worth every minute of waiting. Even though I didn't remember you. You remembered when it was important to remember, and that's what matters." They talked late into the night with Emily asking thousands of questions about their childhood, about their father, about the family. Marcus answered everything patiently, happy to finally share all the memories he had kept to himself for so long. When Emily finally left, it was past midnight. "Tomorrow, will you take me to see the towns?" she asked. "Of course. What time do you want to start?" "I can take the day off work. How about we start early in the morning? Perfect. And little sis. Yeah. Thank you for giving these memories a chance, for believing in me. Thank you for waiting for me, for never giving up on me. The next morning, Marcus prepared an itinerary to show all the important places from their childhood. They started at the old elementary school, which was still operating in the same building. We studied here until 2nd grade, Marcus explained, as they walked through the playground. You always sat in the front row because you wanted to see everything the teacher wrote on the board. And you sat behind me to protect me from the boys who pulled my ponytail, Emily finished, surprising herself with the memory. You remembered that on your own? I'm remembering a lot of things. It's like being here is unlocking the memories. They visited the town square, which had the playground they used to go to. Over there, Marcus pointed to a bench under a big tree. That's where Dad would sit to watch us while we played. He'd bring a book, but he spent more time looking at us than reading. Emily sat on the same bench and closed her eyes. I can see him here. I can remember his smile when I managed to climb the big slide by myself. He was so proud. He said you were too brave for your own good. They went to the main church, where the family went for Sunday Mass. You were always fidgety during Mass, Marcus recalled. You'd draw in the missal, and I had to keep distracting you so you wouldn't make noise. And after Mass we'd buy candy at Mr. Tom's little shop. You remember Mr. Tom? I do. He always gave me extra candy when Dad wasn't looking. The day passed quickly, with them visiting every little corner of the town that was important in their childhood. With each place, more memories came back to Emily, and with each memory, the siblings felt more connected again. In the late afternoon, they went to the cemetery to visit their father's grave. He's here, Emily asked, standing in front of the simple headstone. He is, and I'm sure he's happy to know you came. Emily knelt in front of the grave and stayed silent for several minutes. Marcus respected the moment and stood a little ways away. Dad, she finally spoke, I'm sorry I wasn't here when you left. I'm sorry you died thinking I didn't remember you all, but I remember now, and I want you to know that I always felt I had a family somewhere waiting for me. Thank you for raising a son as good as Marcus. Thank you for loving me even from afar. Marcus approached and placed a hand on his sister's shoulder. He heard you, and I'm sure he forgave everything there was to forgive a long time ago. How can you be so sure? Because that's how he was. He didn't hold grudges against anyone, especially not you. They left the cemetery as it was getting dark. Emily was visibly emotional but also lighter, as if a weight had been lifted from her shoulders. Marcus, can I ask you for one more thing? Anything. I want to meet our birth mother, Linda. Marcus was surprised. Are you sure? I am. I need to understand why she did what she did, why she made me forget you all. It could be a difficult conversation. I've faced difficult conversations before, and now I have you by my side to give me strength. Do you want me to contact her? I do. But first, can you tell me what she was like when we were little? Marcus thought carefully. Linda was always an intense person. When she was happy, she was the most caring person in the world. When she was sad or angry, she became very distant. The marriage with Dad hadn't been working for a few years before the separation. Did they fight a lot? Not in front of us, but we could feel the tension. They slept in separate rooms, they barely talked during meals. And when they decided to separate, it was very sudden. One morning, Linda packed her bags and yours, said you two were going on a trip for a few days, except you never came back. She didn't say anything about taking me away forever. No, at least not to me. Maybe she talked to Dad afterwards, but at the time I was just a kid and didn't understand it was a final goodbye. It must have been hard for you too. It was. But I was older, so I could understand better that sometimes adults do things we can't comprehend. The hardest part was explaining to myself why you weren't coming back, why you didn't call, why you didn't at least send a letter. And now we know she prevented any contact. That's how it seems. Emily was thoughtful as they walked back to the auto shop. Do you hold any resentment towards her? Honestly, I did. For a long time I hated her for breaking up our family, for taking you away without even leaving an address to contact. And now? Now? I don't know. Part of me is still hurt. But another part understands that she was probably suffering too, that maybe she did what she thought was best for you. Even if it was wrong. Even if it was wrong. Back at the auto shop, Marcus called the number he had for Linda. They hadn't spoken in over 5 years since her father's funeral, when she appeared briefly and left without talking to anyone. The phone rang several times before a familiar voice answered. "Hello? Linda? It's Marcus." A long silence on the other end of the line. "Marcus, how did you get my number?" "I've had it for years." "Linda, I need to talk to you about something important. If it's about money or inheritance, it's not about that. It's about Emily." Another silence, even longer. "What about Emily?" I found her, and she wants to talk to you." "That's impossible. Emily doesn't even remember you all." "Yes, she does, Linda, and she knows we're siblings. She's here with me now." "You're lying." Marcus passed the phone to Emily, who had been listening to the whole conversation. "Mom?" Emily said into the phone. More silence. Then the sound of someone crying softly. "Emily? Is it really you?" "It's me, Mom." "I need to talk to you, in person." "About what?" "About our family. About why you made me forget I had a father and a brother." "Emily, Mom, I'm not angry. I just want to understand. You need to come here or I'll go there, but we need to talk." "Where are you?" "In Pleasant Valley, at Marcus's auto shop." "Emily, I can't go back there. You don't understand. Then I'll come to New York to meet you. Give me your address." Linda hesitated for a long time. "Okay, I'll come there, but not today. I need to prepare." "When can you come?" "This weekend. Saturday." "We'll be waiting for you. And Mom." "Yes?" "I love you. Even though I don't understand your decisions, I love you." I love you too, honey. I've always loved you." Emily hung up the phone and sat down, visibly shaken. "How are you feeling?" Marcus asked. Confused, angry, sad, relieved, all at the same time. "That's a normal reaction." "Marcus, will you stay with me when she gets here? If you want me to, I'll stay. I don't know how I'll react when I see her in person. A lot of feelings might come up at once." "I'll be here. And if you want to stop the conversation at any time, just give me a signal." Emily agreed, and they spent the next few days preparing for the meeting with Linda. Marcus showed Emily more old photos, told more family stories, helped her rebuild as many memories as possible before the confrontation with her mother. On Friday night, Emily showed up at the auto shop clearly nervous. "I haven't slept properly all week," she confessed. "That's understandable. You're preparing to hear explanations for 22 years of separation from your family." "What if I don't like the answers? What if she has reasons that don't justify what she did?" "Then at least you'll know the truth, and you'll be able to decide how to move forward. What if she lies?" "You're a police officer, little sis. You know how to tell when someone is lying." Emily smiled for the first time in days. "That's true. And I have you here to confirm the facts she tells." "Exactly. We'll face this together." Dear listener, if you're enjoying the story, please take a moment to like and especially subscribe to the channel. It helps us a lot as we're just starting out. Now continuing. On Saturday morning, Marcus and Emily tidied up the auto shop and prepared coffee, waiting for Linda's arrival. Around 10 o'clock, a blue car stopped in front of the building. Linda got out of the car, visibly nervous. She was 54 now, with graying hair, a bit thinner than when she lived in Pleasant Valley. She wore simple clothes and carried a large bag on her shoulder. Emily saw her from the window and felt her stomach churn. It was her mother, the woman who raised her, but at the same time a stranger who had hidden half of her life story. "She's here," Emily said to Marcus. "Do you want to go greet her, or would you prefer I go first?" "Let's go together." They left the auto shop and walked to the car. Linda saw them approaching, and for a moment it seemed like she would get back in the car and leave. But she composed herself and waited. "Hi, Mum," Emily said, not quite sure how to greet her. "Emily, you've grown so much. You're so beautiful." "Thank you." Linda looked at Marcus, who had grown and changed significantly since childhood. "Marcus, you look just like your father." "Hi, Linda." The meeting was visibly awkward for all three. Linda looked sometimes at Emily, sometimes at the auto shop building, with a melancholic expression. "This was our home," she murmured. "It was," Marcus confirmed. "It became an auto shop when I bought the land back." Can I come in?" "Of course. Let's go to the back, where there's a table for us to talk." They entered the auto shop and headed to the small room where Marcus usually received Emily. Linda looked at everything carefully, clearly recognizing the layout of the land beneath the modifications. "That was our bedroom," she said, pointing to the current office. "It was where Emily and I slept," Marcus corrected. Linda stared at him. "You slept in the same room?" "After you left, she had a lot of nightmares. Dad put an extra bed in my room." "I see." They sat at the table, with Linda on one side and Marcus and Emily on the other. The silence stretched for several minutes until Emily took the initiative. "Mom, why did you make me forget I had a family here?" Linda took a deep breath before answering. "Because I thought it would be better for you to start a new life without looking back." "But why would it be better? I was a child. I needed my family." "Your family was dysfunctional, Emily. Your father and I fought constantly. It wasn't a healthy environment for you to grow up in." "But you could have gotten divorced and I could have still had contact with them," Emily argued. Linda looked at Marcus before answering. "I didn't want you growing up divided between two homes, two different environments. I wanted you to have stability. By lying about my own history, I didn't lie, I just didn't tell certain parts." "It's the same thing, Mum." Marcus noticed the conversation was getting tense and intervened. "Linda, Emily isn't attacking you. She just wants to understand your motivations. We just want to understand." Linda looked at Marcus with a mix of gratitude and resentment. "You can't understand, Marcus. You were a man. You were older. It was different for you." "How was it different?" "Emily was a girl. She needed a present mother, emotional stability. She couldn't be going back and forth between houses, dividing loyalties. But she could have had that and still kept in touch with us," Marcus insisted. "Not in the way I wanted to give it to her." Emily leaned forward. "What do you mean in the way you wanted? And what I wanted didn't matter. You were a child, Emily. You didn't know what was best for you. And you did? I was your mother. Of course I did." "Then why did you intercept the letters Marcus sent? Why did you change our last name? Why did we move cities constantly in the first few years?" Linda seemed surprised that Emily knew these details. "How do you know about the letters?" "Because we found them, all returned as addressee unknown. You kept them from reaching me." Linda lowered her head. I thought it would be easier for you if you didn't have painful memories." "But they weren't painful memories," Emily raised her voice. "They were memories of love, of family, of people who loved me. And they would have made you feel divided, confused, unhappy." Marcus shook his head. "Linda, that wasn't your decision to make alone. Emily had the right to know her family, to decide for herself what kind of relationship she wanted to have with us." "Do you think it was easy for me?" Linda retorted. "Do you think it was easy raising a daughter alone, making up excuses for all the questions about her family? Do you think it was easy seeing her crying from nightmares and not being able to explain where they came from?" "Then why didn't you explain?" Emily asked. "Why didn't you help me understand my own story?" "Because you were too young to understand. And when you got older, you were already used to the version I told." "What version, Mom?" "The version where my father had died, where I had no siblings, where our family didn't exist." "I never said your father had died. You didn't say it, but you let me believe it. Whenever I asked about him, you changed the subject or said it wasn't worth talking about the past." Linda fell silent, clearly uncomfortable with the direction of the conversation. "And our relatives?" Marcus asked. "Grandparents, uncles, cousins. Emily had an entire family here who never saw her again." Your family never really accepted me anyway. They always thought I wasn't good enough for your father. That's not true, Linda. You know it isn't. Isn't it? Then why did your grandmother always treat me coldly? Why did your uncles barely speak to me at family gatherings? Because you were closed off. You didn't try to get close to them. But that doesn't mean they didn't like you. To me, it did. Emily realized there were deeper issues behind her mother's decisions. Mom, you weren't happy here. Was that it? Linda looked at her daughter with teary eyes. No, Emily. I wasn't happy. I felt like a stranger in my own family. Your father was a good man, but we were very different. And your family was very close-knit, very insular. I always felt like an outsider. But that doesn't justify you keeping me away from them too. It doesn't, no. But at the time I was only thinking of protecting us, of starting a life where the two of us could be happy. And were we happy? Emily asked. Linda thought before answering. I always tried to make you happy. I tried to give you the best I could. You did, Mom. You raised me well, educated me, supported my dreams, but you also deprived me of an important part of my history. I know, and I regret that now. Now? Only now? No. I always had doubts, especially when you grew up and started asking more specific questions about the family. But by then so much time had passed, I didn't know how to tell the truth anymore. Marcus leaned forward. Linda, did you know Dad died 3 years ago? I found out. I saw the news in the town's online paper. And you didn't feel like bringing Emily to say goodbye? Linda began to cry. I did. I almost bought tickets several times. But I was afraid. Afraid of what? Afraid that you'd convince her to stay. Afraid of losing her like I'd lost everything else from this town. Emily reached out and touched her mother's arm. Mom, no one was going to convince me of anything. I was an adult, a police officer, independent. I knew how to make my own decisions. I know that rationally, but deep down I still saw you as my little girl who needed my protection. And now? How do you see me now? Linda looked at Emily with admiration. I see a strong, courageous, fair woman. Exactly what I always dreamed you'd be. And do you know why I'm like this? Because you raised me well. Because you taught me important values. Because you showed me that women can be independent and strong. Thank you for saying that. But I'm also like this because I was born into a family of good people, because I have the genes of a hard-working and caring father and a protective and dedicated brother. You can't take that part of me away. Linda agreed, wiping her tears. You're right, and I'm sorry for trying to erase that part of your history. I forgive you, Mom, but I need you to understand that now things are going to be different. Different how? Now I have my family back, and you're going to have to accept that. If you want to continue being part of my life, you'll have to accept that Marcus is part of it too. Linda looked at Marcus, who had stayed quiet for most of the conversation between mother and daughter. Marcus, do you hate me for what I did? I don't hate you anymore, Linda. I understand you were suffering too, that you made decisions based on fear and pain. But you're still hurt by me. I am. I won't lie. You deprived me of my sister during the 22 most important years of her life. I missed her graduation, her first job, her first boyfriends, all the important moments. And you, Marcus, are you willing to forgive me too? Marcus thought carefully. I'm willing to try, for Emily's sake, because she needs all of us in her life now. And because of him too, Emily added, because he deserves to have his whole family back after waiting so long for it. Linda looked around the auto shop again. It's strange being here after so long. It brings back a lot of memories. Good or bad? Marcus asked. Both. Good ones from when we were happy here, bad ones from when everything started to fall apart. Linda, can I ask you something? Emily said. Do you still love my dad, even after everything? I did. I always did. That's why it hurts so much to be here and feel like I didn't belong. And if you had tried to work through the problems instead of separating, maybe we would have made it. Maybe not. We were both very proud back then, neither of us wanted to give in. And do you regret it? Getting divorced? No. Taking you away without leaving any contact? Yes. Very much. Marcus stood up and went to the shelf, picking up more old photos. Linda, do you want to see what Emily was like in the first few years after you left? What do you mean? Dad took pictures every time she managed to remember something about you. Every time she talked about Mommy. He kept it all. Marcus showed the photos to Linda. Emily at 9 years old drawing a picture of the family, at 10 playing with a doll that looked like her mother, at 11 writing a letter that was never sent. She remembered me, Linda asked, emotional. Always, especially in the early years. She would ask when you were coming back, when you were going to pick her up to go out. And what did you tell her? That you were okay, but that you lived far away, that one day when she was grown up, maybe you would meet again. You never spoke badly of me to her? Never. Dad always said you were a good mother, that you loved her very much, but that sometimes adults had to make difficult choices. Linda looked at the photos with tears in her eyes. I kept pictures of her too, and drawings, and little letters she wrote to the dad who lived in heaven. What do you mean, lived in heaven? When she asked about her father, I told her he was in a special place watching over her from afar. She interpreted that he had died. And you let her believe that? At first, yes. Later, when she got older, I tried to explain better, but by then she had already created her own version of the story. Emily shook her head. Mom, that was so cruel. I grew up thinking my father was dead. I know, honey, and I regret that very much, but at the time, it seemed easier than explaining the whole situation. Easier for who? For you or for me? For me. And I know it was selfish. Time passed quickly, and before they knew it, it was mid-afternoon. Linda looked at her watch. I need to get back to New York tonight. Of course. But before that, would you like to see Dad's grave? Marcus asked. Linda hesitated. I don't know if I'm ready. It doesn't have to be today, but maybe one day you'll want to say goodbye to him. Maybe. Emily stood up and hugged her mother. Mom, thank you for coming. I know it wasn't easy. Thank you for giving me the chance to explain, and for forgiving me even though I don't deserve it. You do deserve it. You're my mother. You always will be. And now, how do we do this? Now we take it slow. You're still my mother, and Marcus is still my brother, and we'll all learn to be a different family than we were before. A blended family, Marcus added. Exactly. A family that got lost, found each other, and will now rebuild. Linda looked at Marcus. Marcus, do you think you'll ever be able to forgive me completely? I think so, Linda. It will take time, but I think so, especially seeing how well you raised Emily. It shows that despite the mistakes, you always truly loved her. I did. I do. She's the most important thing in my life. For me, too, so we have that in common. Linda smiled for the first time that day. We do. And maybe that's enough to start. When Linda left, Marcus and Emily sat in the auto shop, processing everything that had happened. How do you feel? Marcus asked. Confused but lighter. It's like I finally have all the pieces of my life's puzzle. And how do you feel about her? About the explanations she gave? I think she was truly suffering back then. I think she made bad decisions for the wrong reasons, but it wasn't malice. It was fear, insecurity. And does that help you forgive her? Yes. It doesn't justify what she did, but it helps me understand. And it helps me move forward without anger. And now? What do you want to do? I want to make up for all the lost time with you. I want to learn how to be your sister again. I want to meet all our relatives. I want to build a life where our family is a part of it. What about your job? You're based in San Diego. Actually, I was thinking about something. About what? About requesting a transfer to the region, to be closer to here. Marcus was moved. Really? Really. If you want me to, of course. I don't want to impose on your life. Little sis, I've dreamed of this day for 22 years. Of course I want you close by. Then I'll start looking for openings in the area, maybe in Phoenix or Austin. And where will you live? I don't know yet. Maybe I'll rent a small apartment. Marcus hesitated before asking the next question. Emily, would you like to live here? In the back house. We can renovate it, make 2 separate bedrooms. Emily smiled. You'd let me live here? This is your home, little sis. It always has been. Then I accept. But on one condition. What? You teach me how to work on cars. I want to learn the family trade. Marcus laughed. You want to be a mechanic? I want to learn a little bit of everything. I want to make up for all the time we lost, all the conversations we didn't have, all the things you learned and could have taught me. It will be my pleasure to teach you everything I know. In the following months, Emily managed to get a transfer to the Phoenix precinct and moved to Pleasant Valley. They renovated the back house of the auto shop, creating 2 bedrooms and a shared living room. The readjustment wasn't easy at first. After so much time apart, they needed to learn each other's habits, find a rhythm of living together, establish boundaries and personal spaces. Emily discovered that Marcus was more reserved than she remembered from childhood, a result of the years alone. Marcus discovered that Emily was more independent and stubborn than he imagined, traits developed throughout her police career. But little by little they built a new family dynamic. Emily helped at the auto shop on weekends. Marcus cooked for both of them on the nights she came home late from work. They also began visiting the relatives Emily hadn't seen since she was a child. At first it was strange for everyone, but gradually the family came together again. Linda started visiting Pleasant Valley once a month. At first the visits were tense, with formal conversations and awkward silences. But over time she and Marcus managed to establish a relationship of mutual respect, if not exactly a friendship. 1 year after the reunion, Emily organized a birthday party for Marcus, inviting all the relatives and friends, including Linda. It was the first time in over 20 years that the whole family was gathered in the same place. During the party, Marcus made an emotional toast. I want to thank all of you for being here today, but mostly I want to thank my sister, who had the courage to accept that the confused memories she had were real, who had the generosity to forgive the mistakes of the past, and who had the wisdom to understand that family isn't just about blood, but about choosing to be present in each other's lives. Emily was moved and replied, and I want to thank my brother, who never gave up on me, who waited patiently for 22 years, who welcomed me back without demands or resentment, and who taught me that some connections are too strong to be broken, no matter how much time passes. 2 years after the reunion, Emily was promoted to sergeant and decided to accept an offer to lead a new precinct specialized in missing persons. She discovered that her own experience of having been lost from her family made her especially empathetic with families going through similar situations. Marcus expanded the auto shop and hired 2 more employees, turning the small business into a medium-sized company that served the entire region. He also started a social project teaching mechanics to at-risk youth. Linda, inspired by her children's reconciliation, began therapy to work on her own emotional issues. She recognized that her past decisions were influenced by untreated depression and anxiety, and began a process of self-discovery and healing. During one of her monthly visits, she asked to speak with Marcus alone. Marcus, I know I can't undo what I did, but I can try to make up for it somehow. What do you have in mind? I have some savings set aside, money that was meant for Emily when I died. I want to give it to you both now, to invest in the auto shop, the house, whatever you need. Linda, you don't have to. Yes, I do. It's a way to contribute to the life you're building together, and perhaps a way to make up a little for the lost years. Marcus accepted the contribution and used the money to completely renovate the house, creating a more comfortable home for him and Emily. He also created a fund for the education of his employees' children. 3 years after the reunion, Emily met Brian, a veterinarian who cared for the animals at the precinct. They started dating, and Marcus was initially worried that he might lose his sister again. Emily noticed her brother's concern and talked to him. Bro, having a boyfriend doesn't mean I'm going to leave you. You're my family, that will never change. I know, it's just, I'm afraid of losing you again. You won't lose me, and you know why? Because now we choose to be present in each other's lives. We're not kids who depend on adults' decisions anymore. Brian proved understanding of the siblings' closeness and even started helping at the auto shop occasionally. He understood their story was special and respected the place Marcus held in Emily's life. 2 years later, Emily and Brian were married in a simple ceremony in Pleasant Valley. Marcus was the one who walked the bride down the aisle, fulfilling a role he had dreamed of playing since they were children. During the wedding, Linda approached Marcus. "Thank you for taking such good care of her. For being the brother I prevented you from being all those years. Thank you for raising such a special woman. Even with all the mistakes, you did a good job. We did a good job, all of us." Emily and Brian built a house 2 blocks from the auto shop, keeping close to Marcus. She continued working at the missing persons precinct, becoming a regional reference. Marcus also found love 5 years after reuniting with Emily. He met Jennifer, a teacher at the local school, and discovered that when he felt complete as a person, he could open himself to relationships in a healthier way. Jennifer admired Marcus and Emily's story, and from the beginning understood that his sister would always be a priority in his life. She herself became very close to Emily, and the two developed a genuine friendship. 6 years after the reunion, Emily became pregnant with her first child. During the pregnancy, she had many conversations with Linda about motherhood, finally able to see her mother also as a woman who did the best she could with the circumstances she had. "Mum, how did you feel when you were pregnant with me?" "Happy, but also scared. Afraid I wouldn't know how to raise a daughter properly. And when you made the decision to take me away, did you think about how that would affect my future?" "I thought about what I believed would be best for you, but I admit I thought more about my own fears than your needs. And if you could go back in time, I would do it differently. I would try to resolve the problems with your father. I would allow you to keep in touch with the family. I would seek psychological help to deal with my own issues. But then I wouldn't be the person I am today." "What do you mean?" "If I had grown up here, maybe I wouldn't have become a police officer. Maybe I wouldn't have developed the independence I have. Maybe I wouldn't value family as much as I do now. Do you think that in the end, everything happened as it was supposed to?" "I don't know if 'supposed to' is the right word, but I think we managed to turn a difficult situation into a story of overcoming and forgiveness." Dear listener, if you're enjoying the story, please take a moment to like and especially subscribe to the channel. It helps us a lot as we're just starting out. Now continuing. When Emily's baby was born, Marcus cried as he held him for the first time. It was the first time he had a nephew, the first time he experienced the joy of being an uncle. "What are we going to name him?" Emily asked Brian. "What do you think of Daniel?" "It was my grandfather's name." "Daniel Marcus," Emily suggested. "Daniel Marcus in honor of the 2 most important men in my life, my father and my brother." Marcus was deeply moved to learn he would carry his father's name and his own name. "Little sis, are you sure?" "Absolutely. This boy will grow up knowing our family's story, knowing he has an uncle who never gave up on finding his mother, and a grandfather who never stopped loving her." Linda, now grandma, became a constant presence in her grandson's life. She seemed determined to make up with the boy for all the presents she missed in her own daughter's childhood. "Grandma Linda adores Daniel," Emily commented to Marcus during a Sunday lunch. "It's good to see her like this. Lighter, more present. I think having a grandson gave her life new meaning, and having our family back did too." "And for you? How are you feeling as a mother?" "Terrified and happy at the same time. I keep thinking about all the decisions I'll have to make for him, and I hope I don't make the same mistakes our mother made." "You won't, little sis, because you learned the importance of family, truth, and presence. And because I have you to help me raise him, to be the uncle you always wanted to have." 2 years later, Marcus and Jennifer got married, and Daniel was the ring bearer at the ceremony. The family continued to grow and strengthen. 7 years after the reunion, Marcus and Emily decided to take a special trip. They returned to all the places where they played as children, but this time taking Daniel to learn the family history. "Look, Daniel, this is where Grandpa Daniel used to sit to watch us while we played," Marcus explained in the town square. "And here," Emily added, "is where Uncle Marcus taught me how to ride a bike." "Can I learn to ride a bike here too?" the boy asked. "Of course you can, and Uncle Marcus will teach you just like he taught me." In that moment, watching Marcus teaching Daniel to ride a bike in the same square where they had played decades ago, Emily was certain that all the difficult paths they had traveled were worth it to reach that point. Their story wasn't one of an instant happy ending. It was a story of work, forgiveness, and the daily building of relationships. There were arguments, misunderstandings, difficult moments, but there was also something stronger, the unconditional love between siblings and the determination not to let anything separate them again. Linda continued therapy and gradually managed to build healthier relationships with everyone. She and Marcus never became great friends, but they developed a mutual respect and a partnership in raising Daniel. Marcus's auto shop became a family gathering spot. Every Sunday, everyone would meet there for lunch together. Marcus and Jennifer, Emily and Brian with Daniel, Linda, and various aunts and cousins who had grown closer over the years. During one of these lunches, when Daniel was 5, he asked a question that took everyone by surprise. "Uncle Marcus, why did Grandma Linda live far away from Grandma Teresa?" Children have a unique way of asking questions that go straight to the point. Grandma Teresa was the mother of Marcus and Emily, who had died when they were still young. "It's complicated, little guy," Marcus replied. "But didn't they like each other?" Emily looked at Linda, who became visibly embarrassed. "Daniel, sometimes adults make decisions that aren't the best, and sometimes it takes a long time to fix those decisions." "Like you did." "Like we did what?" "You got lost and then found each other, right?" The child's innocence summed up the complexity of the entire story in a few words. "That's right, my love," Emily answered. "We got lost, but we never stopped looking for each other, and when we found each other, we decided never to get lost again. And now we're a big family," Daniel concluded, satisfied. "The biggest and best family in the world," Marcus confirmed. 10 years after the reunion, Marcus decided to write a book telling their story, not to publish but to leave a record for Daniel and for any other children who might come. "Why do you want to write our story?" Emily asked. "So Daniel understands where he came from, so he knows our family fought to stay together, and so that if one day he gets lost from us for any reason, he knows we will always be here waiting for him to come back. It's a beautiful way to honor our journey, and to honor our father too. He always said you'd come back one day. He was right. He was, and I'm sure he's happy seeing how our family rebuilt itself." Marcus's book became a family tradition. With every important birthday, he would add a new chapter, documenting the family's growth, the new challenges overcome, the shared joys. 15 years after the reunion, on a hot December afternoon, Marcus and Emily were at the auto shop fixing a customer's car when they saw a familiar scene. A car stopped on the road with its hood up and a woman alone trying to solve the problem. "Go help her," Emily said to Marcus. "Why me?" "Because that's how our story started. You helping a woman in trouble on the road." Marcus smiled and went to help the driver. When he returned, Emily asked, "So, did you manage to fix her problem?" "I did. It was just a punctured hose." "Did she thank you?" "She did. And you know what else?" "What?" "She said I looked like someone trustworthy, that you could tell I'm a person who knows the value of family." Emily laughed. "How did she come to that conclusion?" "I don't know. Female intuition, maybe. Or maybe because you really are a person who knows the value of family." "I learned from the best teacher," Marcus said, hugging his sister. "And who is this teacher?" "Life. And a stubborn little sister who taught me that some connections are unbreakable." That night, during dinner with the whole family, Daniel announced he had decided what he wanted to be when he grew up. "I want to be a mechanic like Uncle Marcus." "Why?" Linda asked. "Because mechanics help people when they're in trouble, and because that's how Uncle Marcus found Mom again." The boy's answer moved everyone at the table. Marcus stood up and hugged his nephew. "If you want to be a mechanic, I'll teach you everything I know. But I want you to be whatever makes you happy." "I want to be a mechanic who helps families find each other again," Daniel declared with the conviction only children have. Then you'll be the best mechanic in the world, Emily said, kissing her son's head. 20 years had passed since the reunion on the highway. Marcus was now 52, Emily 50, and Daniel 15. The auto shop had become one of the most respected in the region, not just for the quality of the work, but for the story of its origin. Daniel had indeed chosen to follow in his uncle's footsteps and was learning the trade in his free time from school. But he had also developed other talents. He was an excellent student, a player on the school soccer team, and had inherited from his mother the desire to help people. "Daniel, are you sure you want to be a mechanic?" Emily asked in a mother-son conversation. "I am, Mom, but not just a mechanic." "What do you mean?" "I want to study psychology too. I want to understand why families break apart and how to help them find each other again." The teenager's answer showed he had truly understood the essence of his family's story. "I think that's an excellent idea," Emily replied. "You can be a mechanic who fixes cars and hearts. That's exactly what I want to be." Marcus, overhearing the conversation from afar, felt immense pride in his nephew. Daniel had grown up understanding that life is about connections, about not giving up on the people we love, about the importance of forgiving and rebuilding. Linda, now 74, had moved to Pleasant Valley to be closer to the family. She lived in a small house 3 blocks from the auto shop and had become the most present and loving grandmother one could imagine. In her conversations with Emily, she often reflected on the choices she made in the past. "If I could give one piece of advice to young mothers today, it would be, don't let fear make decisions for you." "What else would you say?" "That family is about forgiveness, about second chances, about understanding that we all do the best we can with what we know at the time, and about not giving up on the people we love, especially about that. Marcus never gave up on you, even when it seemed impossible to find you. That taught me that true love is persistent." The auto shop continued to be the heart of the family. Every Sunday, 3 generations gathered there, Linda telling stories of the past to Daniel, Marcus teaching his nephew mechanics techniques, Emily helping Jennifer organize the family lunches, Brian playing guitar for everyone. They were simple moments, but full of meaning, moments that showed families can break, but they can also rebuild in even stronger ways. On one of those Sunday afternoons, Marcus found Daniel rummaging through the old box where he kept the old photos. "What are you looking for in there, champ?" "I wanted to see what you and Mom were like when you were little." "And what do you think?" "I think you were always close. Even when you were apart, you can see in the photos that you loved each other." The boy's observation touched Marcus deeply. "How so?" "In the photos you took after you found each other again, you have the same way of looking at each other that you had when you were kids, like you have a secret language." "Maybe we really do." "What's your secret language?" Marcus thought for a moment. "The language of unconditional love, of no matter what happens, I'll always be here for you. I want to learn that language." "You already know it, Daniel. You learn it every day when you take care of your goldfish, when you help your classmates at school, when you hug Grandma Linda even when she's upset." "And when I help you at the auto shop?" "Especially when you help me at the auto shop, because then you're learning that family work is different. It's about building something together." 25 years after the reunion, the story of Marcus and Emily had spread throughout the region. Many people sought out the auto shop not just to fix their cars, but to talk with the siblings about forgiveness, family, and second chances. Marcus had become a kind of informal counselor for the community. He had a natural ability to listen to people and offer helpful perspectives on complicated family relationships. Emily, in turn, had implemented a program at the police station to assist families in situations of contentious separation. Her work with missing persons had evolved into work preventing family ruptures. "Do you think our story could help other families?" Daniel asked during one of these conversations. "How so?" Emily replied. "If you wrote a real book for other people to read, so other families who've lost each other know it's possible to reunite." The teenager's idea planted a seed in the siblings' minds. Perhaps their story really could inspire other families. "What do you think, little sis?" Marcus asked Emily. "I think our story isn't just ours. It belongs to any family that's ever faced separations, misunderstandings, years of silence. And if we tell our story, other people might have hope of reuniting with their own families. Exactly. That's how the book, Siblings of the Heart, a story of separation and reunion, was born. Marcus and Emily wrote it together, each telling their perspective of the same story. The book became an unexpected success, not because it was an extraordinary story, but because it was a real human story that touched something universal: the desire to belong, to be loved unconditionally, to have a family. Hundreds of people wrote to them telling their own stories of separation and reunion. Some families managed to reunite after reading the book. Others learned to forgive old hurts. "I never imagined our story could help so many people," Emily commented after receiving another emotional letter from a reader. "It's because it's a story about things everyone understands: love, loss, hope, forgiveness, and about not giving up on the people we love. Especially about that." Daniel, now 18 and about to start college for psychology, had become the biggest advocate for the family's story. "You know which part of the story I like the most?" he asked during a dinner. "Which one?" Linda replied. "The part where Uncle Marcus didn't tell Mom who he was on the first day, because it shows he thought about her well-being before his own." "Why do you think that's important?" Marcus asked. "Because true love is about doing what's best for the other person, even when it hurts us." The young man's maturity impressed the whole family. He had grown up surrounded by adults who chose forgiveness over resentment, who built bridges instead of walls. 30 years after the reunion, Marcus and Emily decided to make one final modification to the auto shop. They created a space dedicated to family meetings, where any family in the region could come to talk about their problems in a neutral environment. "Why do you want to do this?" Jennifer asked. "Because we learned that sometimes families just need a safe place to truly talk to each other," Emily answered. "And because we want to give back everything we received. Our family was healed. Now we want to help other families heal too," Marcus completed. The family space at the auto shop became a reference in the region. Mediated by Marcus and Emily, hundreds of families managed to resolve conflicts, forgive old hurts, and reconnect. Linda, even in her advanced age, became a sort of counselor matriarch. Her experience of having made grave mistakes and managing to redeem herself gave credibility to her guidance for other mothers in difficult situations. "What's the best advice you can give to a mother who is thinking of separating the children from their father?" a visitor once asked. "That she thinks 10 times before making a decision that cannot be undone, and that if separation is truly necessary, she keeps the doors open for the future, because children deserve to know their whole story." Daniel graduated in psychology and mechanics, fulfilling the dream of being someone who fixes cars and hearts. He brought professional family mediation techniques to the auto shop, transforming the place into a true relationship clinic. At 35 years after the reunion, Marcus and Emily were sitting on the auto shop's porch, watching Daniel work with a family that had sought help. "Do you think we made it?" Emily asked. "Made what?" "Transform our pain into something beautiful. Use our story to help other people." Marcus watched his nephew mediating a conversation between separated parents and their teenage children. "I think we did make it. And you know why?" "Why?" "Because Daniel learned from our story that family is about choice. It's about choosing to forgive, choosing to build, choosing to be present. And he's teaching that to other families." He is. And one day the children of these families will teach other families. Our story will keep spreading. Like ripples in the water. Exactly like ripples in the water. At that moment, at 67 and 65 years old respectively, Marcus and Emily were certain that their journey had been worth it. Not only because they reunited, but because they transformed their experience into a tool of healing for others. Linda, at 89 years old, continued visiting the auto shop every week. On one of these visits, she made a confession to Emily. "Daughter, there's something I never told you." "What is it, Mom?" "In the last years we lived here, before I took you away, I used to watch you and Marcus playing in the backyard." "And so?" "And I was envious of the connection you had. You understood each other without needing to speak. You protected each other without needing to plan it. Mom, let me finish. I think part of the reason I took you away was because I wanted to have you all to myself. I wanted to be the most important person in your life. Emily fell silent, processing the revelation. And you succeeded, Mom. You always were the most important person in my life, even after I reunited with Marcus. How so? Because you raised me, you taught me values. You gave me strength to face the world. Marcus gave me back my roots, but you gave me wings. Linda began to cry. Thank you for saying that. It's the truth, Mom. And you know why I'm sure of it? Why? Because if you hadn't taken me away, I wouldn't have become the person I am. I wouldn't have the strength I have. I wouldn't have learned to value family the way I do. So you don't blame me anymore. I never blamed you, Mom. I always understood you did what you thought was right at the time, even when I was wrong, especially when you were wrong, because it was by making mistakes that you taught me the importance of doing things differently. The conversation between mother and daughter definitively sealed the peace between them. Linda passed away 2 years later in peace, knowing she had been forgiven and that her daughter had grown strong despite her mistakes. Her funeral was held in Pleasant Valley, in the presence of the entire family she had helped separate and later helped bring back together. During the wake, many people remarked they had never seen a family so united while facing a moment of grief. It's because we learned that death does not separate those who truly love each other, Daniel explained to a friend who made the comment. 5 years after Linda's death, Marcus and Emily decided to retire and hand over the management of the auto shop to Daniel, who had expanded the business to include a full family mediation center. On his last official day of work, Marcus found a letter he had written to himself 20 years earlier, right after reuniting with Emily. If you are reading this letter, it means our story had a happy ending. It means we managed to rebuild our family, heal our wounds, and maybe even help other people in the process. Never forget to be thankful for the second chance life gave us. And don't forget to tell Emily every day that you love her, because 20 years apart was far too long. Marcus showed the letter to Emily, who was moved. Did you really write this? I did. I wanted to make sure I never forgot the gratitude I feel for having you back. And did you forget? Not for a second. That day, at 72 and 70 years old, Marcus and Emily made a promise. No matter what the future brought, they would never be separated again. Not physically, not emotionally, not spiritually. It was an unnecessary promise because they both knew the connection between them had become unbreakable, but they still wanted to make it, to honor the 10-year-old boy and the 8-year-old girl who were separated against their will and who never stopped searching for each other. Daniel, now married and a father of 2, continued the family legacy. The auto shop became an institution in the region, known not only for its mechanical services, but for its work strengthening family bonds. The stories of families reunited through Daniel's work multiplied. Siblings separated in childhood, parents and children who hadn't spoken in decades, families destroyed by misunderstandings that managed to rebuild. How do you explain your success in reuniting families? A journalist asked Daniel in an interview. It's simple. I grew up seeing that it's possible, that no matter how much people hurt each other, no matter how much time passes, it's still possible to forgive and start over. And what's the secret? There is no secret. There is willingness. When people truly want to reconnect, they find a way. And when they don't, then my job is to show them it's worth wanting to. The story of Marcus and Emily had become bigger than themselves. It had transformed into a symbol of hope for anyone who ever felt they had lost someone important forever. 40 years after the reunion on the dusty road, Marcus, now 77, was sitting in the auto shop watching Daniel teach mechanics to his own son when a young woman appeared with car trouble. "Can you help me?" she asked. "My car broke down on the road and I don't know what to do." Daniel approached to help her, but Marcus interrupted him. "Let me go, son." "Why, Grandpa Marcus?" "Because that's how it all began. And who knows, maybe that's how a new story will begin." Marcus walked over to the young woman's car and began examining the engine. As he worked, she mentioned she was returning home after years of living in another city. "You know what's funny?" she commented. My grandmother always said that one day I would come back home, that our roots always call us back. Marcus smiled, recognizing in the phrase an echo of words his own father used to say. Your grandmother was a wise woman. She was. She passed away last year, but before she died she gave me an address here in town. She said when I was ready to learn my story I should look for this person. Marcus finished the repair and closed the hood. All set. You're good to go. Thank you. By any chance, do you know someone named Helen Thompson? That's the name on this paper my grandmother gave me. Marcus froze. Helen Thompson was his aunt, his father's sister, who had moved away from town decades ago. Helen Thompson is my aunt, but she doesn't live here anymore. She doesn't? Then how will I find her? You won't. She passed away 5 years ago, but may I ask your name? Sarah. Sarah Thompson. Sarah, I think you should talk to me and my sister. We have a feeling your story is connected to our family. Sarah stared at him with curiosity. How so? It's a long story. How about you come in for some coffee while we talk? And so, 40 years after meeting Emily on the same highway, Marcus found himself once again facing the possibility of reuniting a family separated by time and circumstance. Because some stories don't have an end. They just transform into new stories which turn into other stories in an endless chain of love, loss, reunion, and hope. Emily, listening to the conversation from the kitchen of the auto shop, smiled to herself. At 75, her life was about to gain another chapter. One more person to love, one more story to heal, one more proof that family is something built every day, one choice at a time. Bro, she called Marcus from the kitchen. Make more coffee, I think we're going to need it. And in the auto shop that was once his childhood home, where they had reunited after 22 years of separation, where they had built a healing center for families, where they had raised grandchildren and great-grandchildren, where they had turned pain into wisdom, Marcus and Emily prepared to welcome another story of reunion. Because that's what families who have learned the value of forgiveness do. They grow. They always grow. And there's always room for one more person who needs a home, a warm embrace, a second chance. The final image of this story is Marcus pouring coffee for Sarah while Emily pulls up a chair to sit beside her. Daniel watches from a distance, already imagining how he will help this new family rebuild. And in the backyard, the children play under the same tree where Marcus and Emily played decades ago. Some things change, others remain. But true love, that is eternal. It always finds a way back home. End of story. And now tell us, what did you think of this story of reunion and forgiveness? Have you ever experienced a similar situation of family separation? Leave your honest opinion in the comments about how Marcus and Emily managed to overcome years of separation and build an even stronger family. Your experience may help other people going through similar situations.